back then we had a chart, and it told everyone how much the putt broke. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of, kind of a description of that. It was really difficult back then. I will say that it was just a tough system, but it keeps on being refined. And I just want to get right off the bat. So if for any reason that you would like a clinic done at your course, I would be happy to do that. If you come take a clinic from me, which you're more than welcome to do, just know that you really officially cannot teach it. The reason we do that is because it is constantly changing, and you can't believe like what I hear as an instructor when somebody comes to me and says, well, I was taught it by my local pro. And then you start hearing all the stuff and it's not even remotely close. And then they say, well, it doesn't work. Well, okay, well, when you're not using the right parameters, yes, it wouldn't work. So it's very specific to what, to what we do. But so I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that right off the bat, but very happy to do a clinic and teach anybody. So some of the things on as far as Aimpoint goes, it is a system. It is the #1 system right now in the world of green reading. There are, oh my gosh, I think I'll just say at Augusta, I think there were 75 to 80% of the players at Augusta used Aimpoint, and of the guys who made the cut, I think it was 80% or more, made the cut. And over the last 2+ years, we're around probably between 50 and 60% in wins as far as people that use Aimpoint. So it's pretty effective. It is quite funny. I have some professionals who are friends of mine who will say, yeah, it just doesn't work. I'm like, well, it is physics. Sorry, but physics works pretty much anywhere. So it does work, and it's valid. And part of the reason it started is Mark Sweeney was a guy by the name, just an amateur who came to a professional, said, look, I can't understand how to read greens. I want to know how to read greens. And everybody kept giving him these crazy answers. And he's like, well, none of this makes sense because I get a different answer from everybody. And so he went on this mission. Then he came up with a computer. And I don't know how many of you guys remember the Aimpoint green line that was like kind of around 2007. It was on the tour events that you would see. And I think it was 2007, 2008, maybe like 2009. It was extremely accurate. And then they didn't want to pay Mark anymore, so they went to a different line. And that wasn't accurate. So then they had to kind of toss that. The reason Mark's was so accurate, and part of the reason Aimpoint came about, is it took 6-inch triangles all around the green. And so it had every 6 inches measured, and we knew exactly how that putt was going to move and what it was going to do. So some of the things that, that we've all said and that really are myths. I'm going to dive into the biggest one right off the bat, which is grain. And Colin and I go way back. So, we've heard about is grain over the years. And usually people will say, well, grain grows towards the setting sun. Well, not true. Grain grows where water takes it. And that's how grain really works. And yes, it can slightly affect a ball, but really only if you get into maybe South Texas, South Carolina, into some of the old golf courses that still have some really heavy blades of grain. Or if you go to Thailand or some of those places in Asia, again, where the blades are extremely heavy, that will either hold a putt up or possibly move it a little bit. Beyond that, not so much. I hear the grain comment here in Colorado all the time. Well, sorry, but the grass here grows straight up. They cut it off and it's still straight up. There's no grain here. We do have tilt. So to understand, here's the first main thing is that to understand a putt, you have the three things that affect break are slope. So if you guys can, this is how I kind of think of it, and it's what I do in the classes. So I've got slope, and then if I look at this, I'll just take this circle here. It's my angle to that slope that affects break, and then time. Instead of distance control, it's time. So think of it this way. if I have a 20-foot steep uphill putt and I have a 20-foot steep downhill putt, which one takes longer? About uphill for, okay, exactly. So Matt said downhill. So the reason that downhill takes longer is it's just the factor of time. You've got to hit it softer. So that putt, if I have the same amount of break or the same amount of tilt on a downhill putt as I have an uphill putt, the downhill putt will break significantly more. And it's not a linear equation. Okay. It like multiplies. So it's some of those things that you really have to take into account. Okay. I've got a screen here. Let me see if I can get this to hopefully share. Oh, come on now. What'd I do, Holly? I lost it. It'll be here in just 2 minutes. Can everybody see that? Or no?
Can't see it yet.
Okay. Sorry. But, oh my gosh. How about that?
Yep.
Can
It's
you all see
starting
that?
one.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
So obviously some of the players, that have used Aimpoint, you guys didn't see that screen? Not really supposed to show it. That's just a fun one. No, you can see a lot of who does it, but we can't really tout that. So just preparing to putt, determining your line and speed. Once you've actually determined a line, there's lots of factors that go into how that putt breaks. Most of the things that I will hear is like, well, that took all the break at the end. No, if I have, let's say I play 4 feet of break, and you might see the little few inches at the end where it seems to like really turn off. It doesn't have to do with the end. It has to do with what happened in the middle of the putt. So also the beginning of the putt is it doesn't affect break. The ball's moving too fast. The middle of the putt is the area that affects break. And it is definitely the part that you really want to get correct. So, in the past, I know, again, back to Tom and I, like it took forever. And Tom, up to the time I learned Aimpoint, I'm like, let's see, I got to think. I'd already played golf by probably 35 to 40 years by that time. And all that time I was still learning about green reading. When I found Aimpoint, I learned more in 2 hours than I'd learned in all 40 years of playing golf. So, and just really that it's more of a math equation than trying to figure out all the grain and everything else. It's easier, and then at the same time a little bit more difficult. And so let's see if I can kind of get this stuff. This is what putting is, right? It's just kind of a guess, right? Like when you first start playing, just whack it. Where does it go? Looks like some of my students. Anyway, but you really learn a lot by trial and error. And that has been the way the ability has worked in the past, is to do that. But it must be learned. It's not instinctual, and it's just understanding how breaks work and fall. Now, this is back when Tiger was the best player in the world. He was one of the greatest putters ever, and that ball went exactly the opposite of what he was thinking. So it's understanding the tilt in that green, like what does it do? So, and our eyes fool us a lot. And now out here at Colorado Golf Club, we have, if you look around the green, you might see a tilt that goes one way, but the green goes the other. And so many times we don't even realize how much we're taking into account the tilt around us rather than the surface that we're on. And that's also a significant one. Crenshaw's a master, I would say, out here of really taking a tilt that goes one way and having the green go the other. And when you look at that surface around and then you're fooled by that, and it looks like everything around you would go one way. It just doesn't. And that's we'll take the Broadmoor, for example. Everybody says it breaks away from the shrine. Well, that's great until it doesn't. Because I can take you out there and find plenty of putts that break towards the shrine. It just has to do with if it's tilted or not. So if it's tilted towards the shrine, it's going to break towards the shrine. Then if it's not, it breaks away, but it's because it's tilted away. And if it breaks a lot more and people say, well, that's really affected by the shrine. No, it's just on the side of a mountain that you're on, and the grain and the tilt happens to be going with it. So it's that part that's more simple. You don't need to read any more into it than just that. Okay, you've got the shrine. Sure, it's there. It might be good for a point to look at, but the putt is what you have right in front of you. Has nothing to do with the shrine. See if I can get this to go down. Oh, no. All right, which one's longer? Sorry, I can't. Yep. Yeah, interesting, right? Getting different answers, the same, longer. And then there's that one. The top one actually looks smaller, but yep. And if you guys can see that, like here's the two, they're exactly the same size, right? But it's a good visual. There's lots of things like this all around the world that trick us all the time. So kind of pay attention to what you're in front of. And as I said, tilt causes break. Your angle to that tilt causes break. Sorry. You might, Holly, that muted or I don't know.
Yep, it's muted now.
Okay. Tilt does cause break. And then again, your angle to that tilt is what causes break. Even as you just start working up as the tilt starts going more and more and more, again, it goes in multiples. So if you take a line, let's say we'll go across the center of a cup. And so everything below is uphill and everything above is downhill. The biggest breaks start happening when I'm really right at that side, at that line, that center line. And then as I go above it, it starts breaking more and more and more and more and more and more. Not necessarily because of angle, or not necessarily because of like the putt is changing, but just I'm starting to add more downhill. And the more I add downhill, the more that breaks. And if you guys have any questions at any time, like happy to kind of go through that. If you can estimate side tilts, you can predict break. Let me see if I can get this one to play. So speed doesn't change the rate of break. This is an interesting test. So watch how these two coincide. So that's same slope. And if you notice, they finish basically in the same spot. So they fall at the same rate of speed and they end up even with each other. I think that alone, like that was an eye opener for me, just to see that, hey, this really is an equation, and it is a gravity equation, nothing else but a gravity equation. I don't know how many of you putt off the apex. But there's an idea. If this helps you, that dot is the apex of the putt, and it's not even half of what the actual break is. A lot of times, if you're putting to the apex of a putt, then you're usually going to be on the low side. Say usually, but all the time. So if you can see the hole, there's the strict linear way of looking at how you would aim, and the hole's pretty far to the left. And then here's different ways to look at a non-linear way. So there's path. There's the path with the apex. There's the apex only. And there's the entry point or the angle.
Stan, can I ask a question on this slide really quick?
Far away.
Out of these 4, I could definitely resonate with one of them, but are any of them, in your opinion, better than the others?
No, I would say that it's more your perception, like what's the easiest way to view the putt. And if you go back to, so some people, so like Stacy Lewis, this is how Stacy Lewis sees a putt. She sees a straight line to the aim point and the ball falls off that line. So all of these have the same start line, but then they're gonna fall into the hole, not on, obviously they're not going to sit on that start line. The putt, if you notice, the putt starts breaking immediately, but the mass of its break is in the middle. Anybody got any questions on that? Does that help a little bit? But I mean, virtually all of us don't play near enough break. And if I can say anything on a putt, the way that you really want to look at a breaking putt is that we all say, I think, at least most of us, miss it on the high side. Well, that could not be more true. I can hit this putt higher than what it looks right there and still have a great chance of making it. If you miss low, you will miss further away, much further away than if you miss high. If you want to have more 2 putts, then stop missing low. That's 100% the correct answer on that. So if you want to have more 2 putts, make sure that you are getting that ball started high. Doesn't even have to be perfect. However, this is where speed comes in. So if you become better at speed, then you can determine like how to get that ball much closer to the hole. So speed is king, and it's king always. There's the aim point. But if you want to 2 putt, I know it's like I'm not giving anything like outstanding. At the same time, you have to miss high to get the ball close to the hole on a breaking putt. Again, another way just to look at it. Holly, which one did you resonate with back on this one?
I really like the entry point or angle, the 4th one.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have different ideas? How you like to view a putt? Do you usually use the apex to putt at, and do you miss a lot of putts low? How about that?
Stan, are you still talking to me?
No, anybody. So how about you though, Holly? How are you on those?
Well, I'll start out by saying I do not play as much golf as I should, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room can resonate with that too.
Right.
I've always tried to miss on the high side because I always had coaches tell me if you miss it on the low side, you never had a chance anyway. But I would probably still tend to miss a little on the low side. I feel like I've always been kind of a decent green reader. speed was my issue.
Yeah. So yeah, green reading is great, but speed is definitely king. And so, just, and not to just beat a dead horse, but if you can get it on the high side, it really is the reason. It's not really whether it has a chance or not. It's really the fact that, sorry about the radio in the background, but it's really the fact that if you really want that ball to finish near or in the hole, you've got to start it on the high side. And like I said, there's actually a lot more room there that you don't even have to hit it on a perfect line. If you get it started above the hole, you can go out and test it. You will be amazed. Like, that ball is going to finish really close. Then take your next putt and just try to finish, or just try to make a putt where you putt it at the apex, and just watch what happens to the finish of that putt and how much further it is away. That's a game changer, not only for you and but for your students also. Hopefully that's not running all you guys' sound back there. Again, just, viewing a putt, look how much different that aim line is and where the apex is. But look at how the ball starts and how quick it starts breaking. It's like about the third dot out there, that thing's not going through the center anymore. It's really starting to move, and then it just moves a lot more. And this kind of shows a lot about distance control. So here's the leave, really just basically on tour. And what you really want to gather from this is that on 10-foot putts, most people are hitting them at least a little long. One stat, or one characteristic that I didn't name, is that there's the capture width at the hole. And so we used to hear from Pels that, okay, knock it 17 inches by. Well, let's talk about that. A hole is 4.25 inches. For every full revolution of a golf ball, which is basically 6 inches, you shrink the capture width of the hole by 12%. So if I go 6 inches by the hole, I now have a 3.9 inch hole that I'm actually hitting to. So mostly a full cup. If I go 2 feet by the hole, I now have a capture width of 1.9 inches. Then the ball is 1.8. If you hit it pretty much dead in the center, perfect. But if you don't, your chances of lip outs are much greater if you're going to hit it that firm. And so I know that Pels had the lumpy donut, and how much that putt broke. And it even took him a lot longer to realize that you had to play a putt much wider out. If you hit a putt 6 inches to a foot by, that is plenty of speed to make it through all the imperfections if you've read the right break. If you haven't read the right break, then you're going to have an extreme amount of difficulty. Gravity still does work, and it will work for those putts. So the rest of these putts, the one thing we could say about 20-footers is really between 10 to 20 feet, we could get our students, everybody, it doesn't matter if it's a tour player, to hit them slightly firmer if you want to make more in that area. Just to have a chance. Those are putts that still could be made. Obviously not the highest percentage, but they still have a decent percentage of make. And it really comes down to speed control. And that if you can get that, play a better amount of break, and probably just a little more break than you're used to, and get a little bit more speed, enough to get that thing to the hole, because most of the 20-footers are short, just FYI. And you can see how that percentage goes, and it really just gets a lot more, just gets more and more short as putts get longer. That's really what you would like to do between 10 and 20 feet, and help your students understand that, hey, obviously we don't want to kill it, but we could be firmer here to make those putts. and you'll find they'll start making more putts in that area. Those stats will go up. All right, let's get out of here. Okay. Let's see. There we go. So guys, hopefully that helps some and gives you some ideas. What questions can I help you with from a green reading perspective or a putting perspective?
I have a question, Stan. You kind of mentioned some restrictions as far as teaching aim point. Where do we go? How would you get certified to teach it?
So what you would do is you'd have to contact Mark Sweeney, and the thing that you can do is you could get certified for your club, and then you just can't teach it anywhere else. But he does have, like, he only allows so many, I think, in a state. So, but you could ask him about that. Just go to the Aimpoint website and email Mark. I will be extremely honest with you and tell you that Mark is extremely difficult to get a hold of. The guy is a busy man. He's just doing this like all over the place all the time. But that's the process. I can't say that it's very easy. And another thing you probably want to think about is that then you have to return constantly every year and keep up on your certification. So, and I've done that every year since 2009. So it's not exactly it's not exactly cheap because you're always having to travel to do that. So really, if you want to put in that time, but then only being able to teach at your facility, that'd be more the question. So,
I mean, I think part of it, just from my perspective, is that, I mean, I kind of think that's great. I think in a lot of aspects in the golf industry, I think those of you who have been in the industry a long time would probably agree we don't do enough with kind of recertification and understanding. And I mean, things change, right? Like I see Tom nodding over there. Tom, I'm enjoying playing with Andy, by the way. We're having a good time. But yeah, I mean, I think as stuff changes, we don't do enough to keep up our own education. I see a lot of guys teaching stuff that we haven't taught for 10 years. I mean, I've watched, I mean, I'm from Orlando, and I mean, I've watched LPGA Tour lessons where the person's literally teaching wrong things, not like, oh, it's an opinion and whatever. It's like, this is flat out not what we do anymore because it's biomechanically incorrect. So I'm actually, yeah. So I'm actually a really, really big fan of continuing education. I'm happy to get on a plane once a year. That's no big deal. So thank you for that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This updates constantly. I mean, it's crazy how much this just keeps getting better and better, every year. And so it's really good.
As it should.
Right.
As more information comes to
right.
light.
That's what we want to do. Like, who wants to just kind of go, oh, well, I'll just read it that way. I'm good. Yeah. No, want to be better. So yeah, right. Spot on that. Other questions? How can I help? Cannot be that. Like, come on now. I wish I could give you more information, but also I really have to be on a green, and to teach the class. It'd be impossible to do on something like this anyway. And then the very thing that we try to have not happen would happen, and that people say, well, he said this, but he said, and another guy says he said this, and it would give a bad name to everything. It wouldn't be good. So,
Stan, I have a quick question.
Okay.
And this might be a silly question, but I'm genuinely curious. Where does equipment or like a putter fitting fit in with all of this? And does it matter?
So my opinion, because I've done putter fitting forever. For those of you that don't know, when David Adele started fitting putters, I was his very first putter fitter. So that was basically in 99. And so I go way back with David. And I knew David and I fit golf clubs way before that and knew each other from that. And so really, in my opinion, I think putter fitting is imperative. Now, then you have some people who can just flat, and I see your question, Kristen. So I see other people who don't aim their putter well, but but they figured out how to start the ball on line. And now here's the question: do I want to change that? Well, no. Let's say you always aim your putter 3 inches left, and you've learned over the years, and you start that ball on line. Well, I'd probably ruin you as a fitter. So if I got you to aim straight, because now you're going to start it way outside, right? So there's always questions to that. You kind of have to be ready for that. Just to kind of give you an idea, I had one guy that I fit, a tour player that I fit for a putter. And it really took me a minute to figure out that the only way he aimed his putter dead straight. The reason he aimed his putter dead straight is his grip was opened 3 degrees so that he could hold it that way. But he still could not putt very well because what he saw didn't match what his brain was thinking. So I don't care how much he opened his grip, right? It's just he couldn't make those two match up. Anyway, so, okay. How do let's see.
I think that's Garrett Froggatt. Go ahead, Garrett.
Okay, sorry. Figured I did. Garrett, you got a question? Trying to figure this out.
You
gotta unmute yourself, Garrett.
Maybe not. Oh well.
That's all right.
Anything else there? Well, I hope everybody got a little bit of something out of that. And if you have questions, you can always. Oh, there we go.
Hey, Stan, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm watching my little one, but hey, got a question for you. How do greens break throughout the day? So in the morning with dew, and then late in the evening when they get a little bumpier. And then any comments you have on bent grass versus poana, different types of grass. What type of thoughts do you have there? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll give you just I can really speak to that out here at CGC is that you might start out the greens break a certain amount, or the same putt breaks an amount, and then in the afternoon we'll break more because the greens dry out and as it gets windier. Also, here's a total aside, but this is an interesting one for you. Now this takes ground wind. Ground wind is to have 20 miles an hour of ground wind is a lot. That's a whole lot of wind. And there is an equation to that, which we won't go through, but 20 miles per hour of ground wind can take 3 feet of break and blow it straight. That's a significant amount of ground wind.
I think we all witnessed that 2 weeks ago at the Pro2Pro championship. For those of us that played, I think Mike, you were out there.
There we go. And then poana is just is extremely unpredictable. Because it just grows and the ball bounces wherever poana just seems to take it. So I think it's a great surface when it's cut low. It's awesome, but by the time it starts growing, it's not so awesome, in the afternoon, because yes, gravity will take over, but all the bounces just from the different growths of poana can kick a putt off. So that's the only thing that you're really dealing with there. If they can keep it cut short, it's a great thing, but in the afternoon, that's not such a great thing. Bent grass, I mean, to me, and then what we have out here, it's like it's the greatest surface. It's true. You're gonna whatever you look at, that's basically what you're gonna get. And how you do it. But we're Bermuda now. Most of the types of new Bermuda are extremely good, and you don't have any grain issues with most of the newer types of Bermuda. Again, if you go to some of the older courses, we have chosen to keep those greens for, whatever reason, because it's what kind of makes the course, and you will get grain, then you will see effects on putts. Can grain really make a putt go completely the opposite way and a whole lot? No, but it can influence it or hold it up or keep it from, maybe, or make it break just a little bit more in that manner. But you're not talking massive amounts. It just brings a factor in that might cause some confusion, of which there's not a whole lot you can do about. You just have to do the best you can on those. And maybe you can read a little bit of the grain and watch the putt flow with it, would be what I would say. However that's going to go. Hope that answers your question, Michael. Absolutely. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Not the longest presentation in the world, but hopefully you got a few little nuggets there, and don't put those putts below the hole, right? Stop the re-putting. If I could just say that.
I mean, that's what I tell all my students, just if you just stop 3-putting, you'll shoot a better score.
100%. 100%. I know my numbers are around. You can find it. You guys are always welcome to text me or whatever, but happy to do it. So.
I'll send everybody an email after this is concluded, probably later this afternoon, with Stan's contact information and hopefully a link to the recording if I can get it done in time.
Sounds good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Stan.
Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Stan. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.
Stan, as people are leaving, I got a fun.
Thanks, Stan.
Oh,
thank you.
I got a fun story for you. I think you might like from a fitting perspective if you're interested.
Sure.
Todd Soames in Chicago.
Oh, very well. I have funny stories. Yeah, Todd and I are good friends. We know we kind of split on some of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Todd's a good guy, but as you know, he's big on putter fitting as well, and he's got this beautiful presentation that he gives that I really liked, which is Luke Donald and his perfect posture, and he's fitted for his putter perfectly, and then he shows Brant Jobe and how poorly he's fitted and aligned, and he does it. It's about a 15-minute presentation, and then he goes like this. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "What would you tell this guy?" And of course, all the new instructors in the room go, "Oh, he's too bent over and his arms around, whatever." And he goes, "Great, you just ruined Jack Nicklaus' putting stroke. Perfect."
Right.
And I love that because I just love your comment of like, swing of the putter, roll the ball. If the ball rolls good, then do I change anything? So
right,
anyway,
right.
I liked your comment on that. So
one that I should I'll bring up from a fitting standpoint, and you guys can all try this, and I'll just give you an interesting one. I'm doing a lot of fitting. I mean, I saw a lot of things over the years. If I had to guess, I'd probably fit somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 putters, so a lot. I still don't think probably as much as Todd has fit, but I'll tell you a couple of different Todd stories, and Todd just view things different. So I can usually tell when someone's been fit by Todd. We laugh about this all the time, so it's okay, right? We're really good friends.
It's always very like rigid.
Right. So I went to this one club and I did a lot of fittings for this guy's membership, friend of mine. And he's like, "Well, I'd like to get fit by a putter." And I go, "Okay, well, let's do it." So he goes, "I just really don't putt very good." And so I'm watching him for just a minute and I go, "You're a Todd Soames guy, aren't you?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, how'd you know?" And I'm like, I would see the setup a mile away, right? I just know that you've been taught by Todd. So I don't know if you know about Adele putter fitting, but so we use a laser. So this guy every time was 2.5 feet left.
Oof.
From 6 feet. Okay. So I'm like, okay. But it didn't matter what I handed him. Everything went there. And once you understand putter fitting, you realize that all head designs, hosel designs, length, lines, everything else affects the direction you aim. And what I found out over the years is that some people struggle putting so bad that they learn to set up the exact same way no matter what, just so they have something they can control. Doesn't make their putting any better, but they're trying to control it. So this is what I've learned to do with that, and it has really helped it's something that I came up with, and it's helped my putting tremendously. So I'll take a laser at the hole, and if I'm a putt where it's really close to straight, and I will every foot on that laser. So I'll start at 10 feet and get the laser to point at the ball, and then every foot I'll put a ball on the laser all the way to the hole. And so there's 10 balls in a row. So I asked the person, and you guys can all try this, it's really interesting. Ask the person to set up from 10 to 9 and imagine, usually I stand in front of between 8 and 9. And so I kind of block everything. And so I asked the person to imagine if you hit 10 to 9, I just want you to think at this point, I would domino them all the way in the hole. And I go, okay, are you ready? Yep. So then I step away. And then I ask him, what does the line look like? So I did this to him. And he said, the line goes way left. Now it's going straight in the hole. I go, okay. But I've had every answer under the way right, curves, everything. And so then, right. So then I say, okay, I just said, okay, step away, step away, step away. So I had to make his putter. We actually didn't change his setup, but I had to make his putter 37 inches long and about 65 degrees in line angle so that he could actually see straight. It's the only way he could see straight.
Interesting.
And for myself, I ended up doing something really similar. And the reason it came to me was I always putted with my wedge for practice. And that line goes like 65 degrees, and I putt really good with it from 5 feet and in. And then I would struggle with longer putts. And so I decided to make my putter more of that type of a bend. I hardly any offset, one small line, boom. And I see the line much better. So to me, yes, I think, fitting because of what you see, and so eyes over, I'm not a big eyes over guy. If it works, great, but I find less eyes over and more eyes inside. So.
Yeah, I do gravitate inside. Yeah. Sorry, Tom.
You had to learn to putt with your wedge in New Mexico to play hoot and scoop.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Yes. Yes. And you remember Jim Johnson, right? Remember those long putters he had, right? You'd stand way away. That's one of the things that made me think about that from a long time ago. So
I played in the Lakewood Scotch with Jim when he had that thing going one day. His partner was Mark Valente, and I was playing with a member of my club, Reed Meyer, and Jim made more putts than anything I've ever seen in my life. And Lakewood greens are not very, very easy.
Right.
So that was quite a putter.
I saw the question from came through. Actually, it looked like I'm interested in your opinion on this. Kristen said, "How does
Garrett? Yeah.
Garrett, sorry. How does when you hit a putt? How does cut, hook, spin affect initial roll of the putt or roll of the putt?"
Yeah, the ball's going to go where the face angle, takes it. You really can't spin a putt much. Could you get some spin started? Yeah, maybe, but there's nothing really to spin it with, and so the ball is going to take off on that face angle thing. Now, will it roll correctly? No. And will it be hard to get that thing and make it? I think it looks like it influences more than it does. The problem is it's struck so poorly that the roll is just like kind of not very predictable, but my opinion. So.
We might have done it.
There we go.
Thank you for hanging out another couple minutes. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Stan.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great day. Thank you, Holly. Oh, can't hear you.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you. I thought that was really good.
Good. Good.
So-
Glad. Awesome.
I'm going to end the recording.